We've got another VCR to look at today. This one is the National NV-730. It's got 8-hour recording and super still. That means long play. So if you use a 4-hour tape, half the speed, get 8 hours of recording at reduced quality. So I've got the service manual for this one, and I thought it was interesting that it says that the NV-730 has many special features as shown on page 1.1. These features, in addition with the basic PAL VHS format, make this unit an ideal one for your culture and entertainment. So we're going to be cultured and entertained. The features are a slim design front loading system, super still and still advanced, so it means you can pause with a clear picture and jump one frame at a time, a multi-function display, recording at the touch of a single button, so it's got the one touch record option on there, infrared remote, recording one program while watching another. That's an interesting feature. It just means because the VCR's got a tuner in it, you can use your TV to tune another channel while you're recording something from the VCR's tuner. Interesting that is listed as a feature. Isn't really many VCRs around that don't have a tuner built into them. Okay. So the one-touch time recording is separate too. What they're saying is there's just one record button to push. That's weird. The recording button is arranged clearly and separated from the other operation buttons to make this one button recording feature not only very convenient but equally safe. So by having the record button there, and supposedly you only have to press that, and it's far away from the play so you don't accidentally press record. Strange. Okay, and it's got a timer so you can schedule recordings up to 8 programs over 14 days. And there's a picture sharpness control. Auto rewind when it gets to the end of the tape. Acoustic operation control bleep on off switch. That means that there's a beeping noise when you do things. Alright, that's interesting. The special features don't actually seem that special, do they? So there's a supplement there about a change. To protect the IC against overcurrent, add a fusible resistor. So you're supposed to make that change. To cut a link and put a resistor in instead. And cut another link and add a jumper. Interesting. Perhaps we should check this machine to see if it has that. Okay. I don't know if this works or not. For some reason the cord is cut off, and I don't know why that is, so we have to put a cord onto that, a plug onto it. I have had these machines in the past, but I don't know if this is one I've had since then or it's a newer one that's come in since. But let's have a look around it. It's got an interesting control layout. So on the front has, unfortunately, the brand name badge has fallen off. A nice clean front, and you open it up and it's a sloping control panel, which is unusual for these type of VCRs. Some new exciting direction, I guess. This membrane stuff which will break through after a while of heavy use. So there's the special separate record button, which is a good feature apparently. I thought that was normal. Anyway, there's the recording speeds selector, short play or long play, the clock and timer controls, time record enable, then there's the normal tracking, still tracking for the still picture to get that nice and clear. Picture sharpness, as they said, has a special feature. I think I'll change the contrast of the picture a bit. Well, not the contrast, the way the edges look. And there's the counter, memory, and reset. There's also input selector, so the video input on the back can be selected instead of tuner. As the tuner controls automatic time recording, or one-touch time recording. And the tuner controls are on the top, as is common with these. Band selection, the tuning control, and then the memory, and then there's a fine-tuning adjustment so you can make small tweaks once it's saved. Let's look at the back. So on the back there is the normal video input and outputs, connectors. There's a camera remote input for pausing, so the trigger button on the camera will operate the VCR. There's a bleep on-off, so you can turn on and off the bleep, which is interesting. Probably I should call it beep. There's the RF and then the power input. Let's get the top off this thing and take a look inside, and then we'll try powering it up and see what happens. I wonder if it's... well, we'll find out, won't we? Just wondering if maybe the reason why the cord's cut off is because there's something damaged or missing from this. Is that possible? Well, anything's possible. I just don't have any memory of what's going on. I do remember there are a few machines that did come with their cord cut off, but they still work fine. Some have non-original plugs wired onto them. The memory backup supercapacitors have already been removed. Now, according to the service manual, this is a D1 chassis, so it's probably going to look the same as the previous ones we were looking at, the NV-450 and I think it was 280, which were the D1 chassis. It's just the same in this one here, although it is different because we didn't have that before, this extra signal routing thing. It was a ribbon cable going that way, going across to the main board. It looks like this machine is from around the mid-80s. So there's a shield cover over the video head, which seems to be a feature in newer machines. They don't all have it. Okay, it seems alright. Well, it's not making that noise. You see, one thing that's changed is they've changed the belt. The type of belt on the loading mechanism to this big flat one. I wonder if slipping belts were a problem right from the start. This machine looks like it has a separate capstan motor and the reel motor. When you turn that, you can't see the idler there moving. Okay, we'll turn this on. Look at the quality of, or what, if there's anything coming out of these capacitors. That lifts up. That thing lifts up on some clips. There's power supply stuff under there, a regulator on a heatsink. Tuner stuff, the RF modulator and RF amplifier. Yeah, these capacitors are leaking. There's corrosion down there. You can see there. So that's not a good sign. And it's those light purpley colored ones which I'd seen having issues in other machines. Oh well, let's put the cord on it, or plug on it, and then let's see what happens. Hopefully we can get some life out of this thing. Just strip off the ends of this wire to wire onto this terminal block thing. Then plug it in. Do not wire onto stuff while it's plugged in. Good. Make sure it's run the right way. Okay. Made a beep. Hear the beep? And made some mechanical noises. The clock is flashing. Powers up. Maybe this thing works fine. Or maybe there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, look at that. It's got a really good strong load and unload. So that's nice. It's not... It must be the benefit of having this big wide belt on it. It doesn't wear out so quickly. And it's got reasonable take-up, but you might be able to hear it's quite bumpy sounding, and you can feel that on there that the idler tire there is quite messed up. Yeah, this machine has sensing of the reels. I saw in there Hall effect sensors under the reels, so it uses that to work out what's going on. The pinch roll is not very good. Or maybe you can hear the bumpiness. Is that shaft gone stiff? It seemed like it wasn't pushing hard enough, and then when I pushed on it a bit, it was pushing hard enough. And I wonder, is the pinch roller messed up? I can't get in there to... It's not too bad. This little plastic thing pushes down on it, but they crack. A lot of plastic stuff that's been under tension or pressure for long periods of time cracks or creeps, especially if it's been exposed to oil as well. We'll just check that. And it seems like it doesn't engage properly. Okay, that comes through from the other side. There's an arm down there, and then there's a metal plate which will move. Seems okay now. Let's join the video output cable up to it, and we'll see if we put a real tape in there, does it give a picture? The unevenness on the idler for the take-up, I think that's upsetting it because it's flicking the tape around with uneven take-up force. We have to take a look at that. Oh. Got upset about something when in still advance. You can buy a special cloth to make your windscreen not steamed up. That's nice. Just adjusting the still tracking. You can get a pretty good still picture when it's on a proper analog monitor. The capture doesn't really like still pictures. I'm just wondering, can we put it in record mode? Yeah, just by pushing the record button. That's neat. Oh, I think it's just normal. Okay, so this thing seems to work. Let's take the front off, take the bottom off, and take this out, the loading mechanism, and we'll see what's making that bumping noise, and we'll just unplug it for this. I think when you take the front panel off that this control panel stays. Not sure about that. Let's have a look underneath to start with then. Okay. Ah, look at that. There's this folds out and it's got a hinge there, and this different type of thrust plate. I think because they're making the machine thinner so it doesn't have the bit that sticks up so far. So the rod that controls the pinch roller comes out from down there, that moves back and forth when this goes through its process. Alright, in order to take any of this out we have to take the front parts off. Oh, it looks like that comes off separately. First though, we've got to get the screws off so that the top part of the control panel cover will come off. These become very delicate now. The plastic is gone brittle. Yes, so it is just the top edge comes off. Yeah, that's cracked. So inside here, under the cover, there's just a tiny little circuit board there for the power switch and eject. Then there's, with some red screws, bits for taking off the rest of the control panel. Then the other board there with the clock on it, which is wired permanently across onto this tuner timer board. I think we can take this bottom edge off without undoing any other screws. Like that. And that gives access to that circuit board and also the ribbon cable which goes across to the lower control panel, which is here. I think now we can open this board up to have a look in there. Some clips. Here's some other clips holding some wires really tightly. Maybe this hasn't been opened before, or whoever put it back clipped it up in a weird way. Okay, we've got the board that's folded out is video stuff, and audio by the look of it. Pretty sure that wire there comes off the audio head. What does it say? Yeah, audio section there. It's got a bit of servo stuff, just one extra IC, and then chroma this part, and luma in that part. So that's quite a lot of the machine on there. So I guess the rest of it is the control and the rest of the servo. You see there's servo stuff there, motor driver ICs, and probably control stuff. I think it's just that board and then the top one, or the top two, because there was a small one. Yeah, so that flexible board coming from the front panel just plugs into a little board that then routes the signals to all sorts of places, and it's got a few little transistors on it and some grounding straps which go all the way through to that front panel. Static discharge, I guess. Some fairly thick braids. There's some little bits of chewed up videotape that have come out of this when tipped it upside down, so maybe this has had some problems before. Now that we've got the front panel off, we can get the tape loading mechanism out. So again, like the other machines, in this one you can take it out without messing up the timing of anything because it has its own motor on it, so it's not reliant on the positions of the mechanism. And this has different screws. I wonder if that's normal or someone lost the originals. Interesting. And then that should push back a little bit and release. Now we can see, the problem is, the reason why it's bumpy is because the motor itself, the shaft from the motor's gone bumpy. Let's take this off so we can look at it. Yeah, so you need to replace the pulley on the motor, or oh no, that's part of a much bigger assembly. I thought that little plastic thing would just come off, but there's another screw from the bottom, and then there's a bunch of stuff. Yeah, there you go. Now we can see. Let's get a close-up view on that. Now when we look down there, you can see the shaft from the motor is wonky. It also looks like that moves a bit. I think it's just me moving the camera. But yeah, there's a bumpy, an indent on the rubbery bit on the shaft of the motor. So that's why when it's running, it's bumping around and causing the take-up of the tape to stutter, and then that's pulling on it, causing the picture to be a little bit erratic. Now I think that shaft can come off, I think the pulley can come off of that shaft, but the motor has to be taken out to do that. I'll have a look and see if I've got another one or another motor that we might be able to put into there and improve the situation. I'll take a look and rummage in the junk to see if I can find it. The place is full of boxes and boxes of parts, all randomly strewn about. Rummaged around, found this, which is a pretty similar looking motor, but The output shaft is different. It has got a grub screw on there, but also a clip on the top. Let's see if this is compatible and we'll put it in the machine. We'll just disconnect this to get that out of the way for now, so we can easily tip this over. I just have to work out how to get this out. It is pretty cruddy down here. There's some bits of stuff there. It looks like a piece of a brake pad from one of those things. Now I dropped it and lost it. It's got a new back tension band on it, so it's had some servicing at some point, and parts have been upgraded. Oh, there's that brake thing, I think, or is that a different one? Looks very greasy. Okay, to take this motor off, so part of it's already come off because it undid that plastic piece. Now the motor is a little bit wobbly, so it's this metal bracket here, there to there. And there's a spring off that. Okay, guess we could take the cheap out route and just replace the pulley. Should we just replace the whole motor? They are different motors. This one's thinner, and I think the shaft is taller. Okay, so we have to replace the wheel, the pulley part, because the motor's slightly different. Find a tool to undo that screw. Something quite small. I don't think you're supposed to undo that, because that's the thruster adjustment for the motor. That's not very good. That adjusts where the armature, the rotating part of the motor, sits within the bearings. Okay, yeah, so you don't have to take that off. Yeah, see, that just lifts off. It's just a friction fit. Okay, so this massive bump in the side of it. I guess that's from the pressure of the idler tire sitting against it for many years. So this one's different. Okay, so this one, it's got, wow, this little, like, pressed sleeve thing that then has a little tiny notch in it, little smiley face, and then there's a slice out of that bottom bit which aligns with it. And then I think it's just relying on the grub screw poking through that notch. Seems like it. And then just this little C-clip thing on the top to hold it on. Interesting. Guess we'll put that old one onto this shaft. So hopefully it doesn't matter that that pulley's been altered. So it brings drive from there onto this thing, which shifts the position of that, I guess. Okay, put the motor back in. Something better than those pliers for getting that little spring back on. Use tweezers. Okay, that's good. Now this should ride much cleaner. So let's put back this little plastic part. Just 2 screws from the top and then the other one from the bottom that holds the motor against it. We need to try running this without the cassette mechanism in. Maybe just for fun. That got jammed because the door opening thing doesn't quite work against gravity. Oh, I guess it's better. Still not good though, is it? It's probably because the shaft on that new little pulley that we stuck in has gone all smooth and bad. I wonder if we should have a look at there's Hall effect sensors there. What does the waveform look like that comes off them? Let's see, are they analog or digital? Presumably they'll be digital, and there'll be a ring magnet in the bottom of the reel. Maybe we look on a scope just for something interesting to see what the waveform looks like from that. Ah, so we can also see there, this arm here, which the pinch roller is pushed by, there's a spring there. So it's only when it's not pushing that the little plate there is controlling it. So in this position, when it's in play mode, it's just the spring that is holding it down. And I think it's just that the pinch roller has perished. It's gone so smooth that it can barely grip against the shaft now. Because it is free, it's not jammed in any way. Like sometimes these shafts here, the little bearing part gets all gummed up with old grease and dirt. But that feels quite free. Let's try it then with the scope. Oh, there we go. You can see there is the thing, the waveform. I have to lift this up slightly. Get everything perfect. Okay, to scoping the output of that Hall sensor. So it's a digital output Hall sensor, and if it slows down, the pulses get further apart because the magnet's not changing poles as often. And if it speeds up, then they get closer together. So that jumping aroundness is indication that the speed is quite irregular. I suppose we could do the other thing, which is to get the little torque meter thing out, and that would also show the irregularities by jumping around the torque gauge and that special adapter that we made on the last video. So let's see what this does. Ah, it's not going to show the irregularity because it just turns, doesn't it? So the torque is somewhere around 200, sort of 220-ish, about 220. What does it say in the manual for the torque? We're using the manual to insulate the circuit board. Okay, let's turn this off. Oh, we need to eject the tape first, so we can put this thing back together. It's sad because of something. Oh, there you go. Yeah, the edge of that gets caught on the tape when it's going against gravity. Okay, I think we can put this back together now. So that just sits in there, and then you pull it towards the front so that the latches latch in at the front edge, and then 2 screws. Okay, what was the torque requirement of this? Where was... Yeah, look at that. They got the same thing with some kind of adapter that looks similar to the crappy one that I made. Except it's probably got a proper shaft which isn't damaging the chuck on the torque gauge. Anyway, play mode 130 to 180. Really? Didn't I measure 220? I guess it's fine then. Was I using the wrong scale? Easy to read the wrong thing on that because it's got bi-directional scale. No, if we look at that, it turned that way because it's take up and went up to about 220, didn't it? Anyway, the take up is good enough according to the specifications. It tells you how to take things apart. Yes, push that way to release it. Now taking off the control panel, lower control panel, upper cylinder replacement. Oh, the front door has a damper on it. I think it's expired, unfortunately. That's what the red screw was pointing to down there. The damper is there, and it is ruined, because that's what happens to those over 30 so years. The oil leaks out and makes everything in the vicinity a bit gross, and then they don't work anymore. Alright, let's give this thing one last go. Do we need to look at anything else? We had a little bit of a look at the circuit boards. We're pretty much looking at the one that's under this, which is the control things. That there has the head amp in it. There's another machines we saw, the head amp was over here on the back. Yeah, no heater on the head, which is interesting. It's got a more integrated voltage regulator over here, and there's also another device on there. Not sure why they didn't put a heater on this. Sometimes there is still one. It's like a little PTC thing down in there, but I don't see it on this one. Just put that wire back in from the motor that got pulled out so we could get to the shaft of the motor. Might as well put back this bit of the control panel as well, now that we're here. Alright, final test. Much nicer now, isn't it? It's not making that clicking noise anymore. Picture's clear and stable. The cue and review are working alright. Let's see what the rewind and fast forward are like when it's not playing. Pretty good. Oh, the rewind. Pretty good. Yeah, so it seems to be a quite nice functioning machine. Very clear, good pause, which you can see on the monitor here. The noise bar is just off the top of the screen. It might be able to be adjusted a little bit better with the slow tracking. Oh, now it's at the bottom a little bit. It's quite difficult to get them completely off the screen. But yeah, that's a pretty good picture there. It's vintage ads. Okay, I think that's all we need to look at in this one. Next time we do VCRs, I've got a following on model from this. Following on model? What's the number? 770 maybe? Not sure, but it's pretty much exactly the same, but it adds slow motion. So look forward to that, although it might be a quick one because we've kind of done most of this machine here, and I don't think there'll be much different in the next one. But yeah, that's what's coming up, along with other various bits and pieces. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, unfortunately this schedule is stretched out quite a bit because there's lots of work and other things going on that I have to deal with at the moment, so the uploads might be slow. But also I did do some VR chat world exploring videos because that was quite easy to make. So those will start coming out soon, interleaved with these ones. But don't worry, the electronics videos aren't going to stop. We've got heaps of equipment to look through still to try out, and yes, that will continue happening when I find time to do it, because it's quite a bit of fiddling around to get these things apart. And okay, great. So it's a good working machine, the National NV-730. Even though the cord was cut off, it still works. So I'm not really sure why that is or was, but it seems to be a nice working machine. And it does bleeps. Stay tuned for the next VCR and other bits and pieces.